Ron Harris here from MuscularDevelopment.com with our continuing coverage of Olympia weekend, brought to you by High Tech Pharmaceuticals. We just wrapped up an exciting Friday night of finals and judging here at the Orleans Arena. We had it all going on. They started out with the finals for the Fitness Olympia. Now, I was here 1 year ago tonight. The amazing Oksana Grishina, she won. I don't know, was it third or fourth time, fifth time? Fifth time last year. Retired on stage, standing ovation, people are crying. You're never going to see her on stage again. Here she was again. You know, she's awesome. She's an amazing champion, but I don't know. When people say they're done for good, we love you, Oksana. I was just a little surprised. So I hope this doesn't come across too bad. Next up came the finals for the Figure Olympia, which was judged earlier today over at the Convention Center. And top three were just amazing.
Yeah, I called it.
Giles called it. Giles, what did you think of this top three? We had Candice Lewis Carter. Yep. Latoya Watts was the defending champion. And the third place last year, Sydney Gillen. Giles kept elbowing me and saying, look, look, look. So what really stood out to you? What did she improve on that really she pushed past the reigning champion and won?
Well, I mean, there was very little in it with them last year. I mean, you could mix them up any way, and no one would really complain. But Sydney brought her legs up this year, because, like I said earlier in the other judging wrap up, you know, it's judged on three poses: the front relaxed, quarter turn, rear relaxed. She looked knockout in the side and the rear, but from the front, she did have weak legs. But she's brought them up, and she's just enhanced. She looks like a sculptor. She looks like she's been drawn. Yeah. I mean, she's just like a little doll. She's just, I love her. I love her physique. It's just beautiful. She's got everything. She's got every element of what I would want from a figure, a Miss Olympia. So beautiful.
If you hold this for me, I'm going to go to the. We're going to start talking about classic in a second, but you can start talking about some real shakeups in the classic physique division, and that's to be expected. It's a brand new division. Sorry, can't hear it. You can find it for me while I'm looking for that. So. We saw the reigning champion, Danny Hester. I thought he was looking pretty good in the judging today. Fifth place for a reigning champion to come in still looking pretty much at his best and drop to fifth. That tells you how fast the talent is improving in this classic physique division. Fourth place, I believe, was Arash, or was it George?
Arash. Yeah.
It was Arash Rabar. Last year, second place dropped down. I thought Arash looked really good. This is the first time I've seen him compete. I missed the classic last year. Did you see him look any different from last year, from what you recall?
I didn't see the classic last year, but Arash I thought was fantastic. Me and Steve were very impressed with him tonight. He like in the side triceps and some of the poses, for me, he embodies a classic physique. So I would have had no argument with him being one or two spots higher. Yeah.
Third place, the guy from New York, George Peterson. George knows I love him. I just interviewed him. I'm friends with his trainer, Justin. I do think he's more of a bodybuilder physique, not so much a classic-looking physique. Judges thought otherwise. I personally would have had him behind Arash and Danny, all things considered. Would you have done the same?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think he wouldn't have looked out of place in the 212 tonight, because I mean, from the back, he is seriously thick. He's like a little Bonac. He's. I'm not sure he really fits into what I consider a classic physique, but obviously the judges like that look. He's got a lot of muscle. He's conditioned. I mean, I find it hard that he can even make it down to the classic weight, because he is holding a lot of tissue.
So that leads us to our top two, and these are two guys a lot of people, following them on social media the past few weeks, were actually calling as potential winners. I've been talking about these two having a real shot at it for a few months now, and I didn't expect it to really happen, but wow. Second place went to 22-year-old Chris Bumstead from Canada. What a fantastic look for a 22-year-old. Earlier in the season, I saw him compete for the first time in Toronto. Little bottom heavy. He was a lot bottom heavy, let's be real here. Amazing structure. He still needs to fill out his back. Arms are good. They need to be better to match those wheels, but he's getting better at a very rapid rate. 24 years old. What do you expect? Were you very impressed with Chris as well?
He's absolutely amazing. Like I keep saying, I've said it on the MD forum, I've said it in the preview, he's like a Barry DeMay. And for me, that was kind of around the time of where the male open pros had a classic shape. Lita Brala, Barry DeMay, even Rich Kaspari around about 88, 89, he kind of had you know, the way they angle their body when they pose, which I kind of like, you know, and I want to see that, because I don't want to just see a good physique. I want to see something that has classic lines. So when they tilt the body and they, you know, they bring out the different angles, that's what I want to see in a classic physique. And Chris Bumstead, it was a flip of a coin between him and Breon. Yeah, Breon. It was a flip of a coin. I mean, yeah, it could have gone either way. But I mean, Chris, 22 years old. I mean, that kid is amazing. I mean, yeah, he's
give him a couple years.
He could win it 10 years in a row. He could win it 10 years in a row. I mean, and he could hold on to that title for a good few years, you know. So imagine what he's going to look like in another year, another 2 years. He's going to look phenomenal. I mean, yeah, I'm so impressed with him. Beautiful look.
And Breon, very deserving champ. I had seen him win the New York Pro earlier in the year. Came out and surprised a lot of people. He had been 4th place last year, and there were people that thought he deserved a lot better than 4th. Well, he got a lot better than 4th this time. Amazing legs. Condition was just crazy. Back was so detailed. Hamstrings, just you could lose your fist inside the cuts in his quads. And amazing, graceful poser. So well spoken, you know, he made a speech about how he wants to be a really great representative, an ambassador for Classic. I think he's going to be. So were you very impressed with Breon?
Yeah, I believe him when he said that as well. He came across very genuine. But to be honest, from what I've seen, I think he had probably the best condition of the entire Olympia. I mean, when he turned to the back, like you said about you could lose your fist in his hamstring, I mean, the separation, I mean, even from like where we were sat, you know, you could just see the fine detail. And I'm a real conditioning freak. I love conditioning. I like it. And I think if you're Classic, you've got to be shredded. You've got to be, you know, you've got to have the small waist, and you've got to be able to really, but he really impressed me. I mean, I love all that deep separation in the arms. I think sometimes we don't see that in the open pros, where they kind of put that much size on, they kind of lose that quality. So for me, it was a real thrill to see a physique like Breon with that kind of carved, like granite look, and that just freaky condition. And but he looked great. He looked healthy, he looked fresh. He's got a fantastic future. Great kid. I mean, I assume he's quite young.
Yeah. He is. He actually looks a lot younger than he is.
Okay.
I believe he's turning 38 in November.
38?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to break it to you. Oh, no. 37 or 38. It's one of those.
He looks like 22, like Chris's age. Yeah.
Not a line in his face. He's taking care of himself. So let's take it to the 212s.
Okay.
We had some really good talent. It was a smaller 212 lineup than we've seen a few times before, but some really good people. We had some usual suspects. David Henry looked really good. Not quite as much pop as I saw him earlier in the season at the Arnold. You and I were both impressed with the guy from the Czech Republic, Milan Sadek, another young kid. And how did you just describe him to me a few minutes ago?
I said he's kind of, nothing's kind of stands out, but that's kind of his strength, because everything flows top to bottom, side to side. He is so complete. I mean, I don't think I've seen a more complete 212. I mean, maybe flex, I don't know, but he's just got those beautiful lines. He's got good skin. He just looks healthy. He looks, and he's I mean, he's still, well, we interviewed him. Do you remember when he was an amateur at the 2013 Arnold Classic, and he was 24 then, and he was one of the favourites. And I think he had problems with condition, but he still got 4th place. And we were kind of, do you remember when he was? Yeah, and he dropped his. Yeah, no.
I think he was even younger than. I think he was even younger than that. I think he was only 21 or 22 when we met him.
He's like, yeah. He's in his 20s. So I mean, to be in the first call out, I'm so pleased. I was hoping hit one of the new breeds, you know, either the Ricardo, the Milans, or some of the new guys. Lunsford. I was hoping they'd be in the first call out. So to see Derek Lunsford and Milan Sadek in the first call out, I am thrilled.
Yeah, and I mean, the last call out's always even more telling than the first call out, because that's when the judges are really trying to make sure they're doing the right thing as far as being fair where they're placing these guys. And Derek Lunsford, 24 years old. I watched. 24. He's 24. Oh. He was a welterweight a couple of years ago. Now he's competing around 210. I saw this kid back in Vegas in July win the USA, 24 years old. A week later, we both saw him in Tampa. First pro show, 1 week later, wins that. The kid's just got amazing structure, super wide clavicle, small waist, great muscle belly shape. You know, he needed to be tighter to hang with these guys today, and he brought it. He's going to be in the top 4, and I was pretty amazed. Top 3, not really surprised. I think looking at the lineup of the show going in, these are the guys you were looking at. Reigning champ Flex Lewis going for 6. Last year's runner-up Ahmad Ashkenani, hoping to knock him off. looked really good. I thought his legs were a little better. Waist was a little tiny bit thicker and wider as far as I could tell. Do you think Ahmad has changed much since last year and since this year's Arnold win?
I think he looked better last year. I think he looked better. I can't decide whether it's just a film of water or, but he seems to have lost a bit of separation. Now I'd be interested to see if he can maybe come in fuller or drier for tomorrow. Maybe that will have a difference in the separation. Yeah. But I can't put my finger on it. I've been thinking about it. I've been racking my brains, but I can't figure out what impressiveness he's lost. I don't know. I'm going to wait and see till tomorrow. So if he looks, he could pull it round. He could pull it round. But I just, he's big, he's freaky. But for me, he had the wow factor last year.
Yeah. Jose Raymond, my buddy. I thought this is the best I've seen him in probably 4 or 5 outings recently that I've seen him. His waist was smaller and tighter. He was pulling vacuuming shots. He had that fullness that sometimes he sacrifices to bring in the extra crisp, grainy look. But he had the condition. He had the package that he's only really nailed a few times, and he brought it this time. And I wouldn't be surprised if he beats Ahmad and comes in second to flex. He's been second to flex before. We'll see what happens. This is a 2-day event, and there's confirmation around tomorrow. So when physiques change a little bit, the placings can shift around. What did you think of reigning champ Flex Lewis? Has he got this wrapped up?
The first thing I noticed with Flex when he came out is the waist. I don't know what he's done. For me, he was a little bit flat tonight, and in the back shots around the delts and the back, there was definitely watery, but I think it's because he's flat, not because he's soft. And I think he came in deliberately flat to come in and bring the waist in smaller. I don't know. The thing is, I don't think he's got a thick waist. But for me, like in his front double bicep, his waist looked absolutely minuscule, almost like what the Q8 boys, like Rowley and Nathan, have done to bring their waists in. And it's, I think he's going to look better tomorrow. But yeah, Flexy, I don't see anyone beating Flex, but I think I've got Jose second. Jose's really going to push Flex.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if it goes that way, and personally, that's how I saw it going.
Definitely.
So now, the main event, of course, what everyone was waiting for, which ironically was not held last. They did the 212 last. Not really sure the reasoning behind that. But the Mr. Olympia, that's what we all want to see. We want to see how these guys look this year. Some real surprises. Some guys who we were expecting to look phenomenal and push for the top 3 or 4 spots like they usually do. Not quite so. So where should we start with that? I guess Sean Roden, because he was second place. We'll start with him. Last year, he's not second place this year. In fact, I think he's going to have a tough time being in the top 5. What did you see different about him versus last year? Yeah, the waist was just...
I didn't even recognize him. If they hadn't called his name and I'd have just scanned across, I wouldn't have recognized him.
Well, he had hair too. He grew his hair back.
I'm a big Sean Roden fan. I like the Sean Roden, the Cedric McMillan, the guys with the aesthetics. I don't know, but as soon as he walked out, the stomach looked horrendous. It looked really bad. And I think he's tried to put more size on because he did look a bit fuller, but he's lost detail. I think he's going to have to. I don't have him top 6, honestly. He shouldn't have been in that first call out. No way. And I'm a big Sean fan, but I think he's going to have to go back to the drawing board because he can. This is going to be one bad showing for him. I think he's still going to get a good placing. But I think he needs to do something drastically different for next year to get back up into that top 3 because, one bad showing, don't write the guy off. But I'm very disappointed. As a Sean Roden fan, very disappointed.
Yeah. Josh Lenardowicz, who we saw win in Tampa, I thought he was a little better, a little tighter, maybe not as bursting full, but definitely tightened up his condition. Big surprise for me was Rolly Winkler. Wow, just a monstrously huge, but Rolly's had issues with his gut before, and his waist midsection was much smaller, much flatter than I've seen it in a couple of years. He still doesn't have that separation in the upper thighs that I think would help him out so much if he had. But wow, he was not in the first call out. I thought he deserved to be in that first call out.
Absolutely deserved to be in the first call out. I said yesterday I had a very strong feeling that Rolly was going to out-freak Ramy. And for me, he did. Rolly, I think it was Rolly, he comes out very strong, but he fades really fast. And he just faded. And I think sometimes he just gets a bit dejected and he forgets to hold himself and he kind of just gets a bit like a rabbit in the headlights, But, he just blew me away. I suppose how Ramy did for everyone when 2013 when he first came to the Olympia. Yeah. But Rolly for me just blew my socks off. He's incredible. And I just don't understand why he wasn't in that first call out. I mean, he should be ahead of Roden. He won't be ahead of Roden, but I think he should be.
Yeah. Some more guys we want to talk about. Cedric. Cedric was not the Cedric we saw at the Arnold. He wasn't way off, but he was definitely not in contention. Wasn't the first call out. He's not going to be in the top 5. Probably not in the top 6 even. Probably more towards the bottom of the top 10. Still a phenomenal physique. All the potential in the world and tons of fans, but didn't have him up there. Do you think he was much better in Ohio?
No. No,
much better in Ohio this year.
Oh, yeah, sorry, in Ohio. Yeah, sorry.
It's pretty late for us.
The thing is, I know he won in Ohio, but I was saying to Steve, he wasn't at his best in Ohio. In physique-wise, he was, but his condition was sharper when he got second to Kai the year before. But people always think, oh, he won it this year, they automatically assume he must have been better. But he wasn't. I mean, his physique, as I said, had got bigger and it improved, but he wasn't sharper. I don't know what he's doing. It's just, and I'm a massive Cedric fan. I was hoping Cedric would be right up there in the top 3. But, I mean, I don't know what's going on in the midsection. It looks soft and a bit puffy, and I don't know. I'm hoping maybe he can turn it around and maybe he can climb a few spots, but he's around 8th to 10th, you know, and that's a guy that should be knocking on the top. I'd like to see him where sort of Sean Roden, Dexter are, like, you know, top 3.
Yeah. One guy that was just outside of the top 10 last year, someone you've known from the UK, you watched him turn pro, Nathan Deasha, definitely going to be higher than he was last year. Bigger, just as sharp. What do you think of Nathan as this year versus last time?
For me, he's one of the biggest shocks of the show. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I was getting texts, you know, and saying, how does Nathan look? And I said, he looks absolutely incredible. I would love to see him 4th to 6th. I want him in that top 6. He deserves to be in the top 6. He's just got such a beautiful structure. He's got a nice tight midsection. He's just, I mean, 3 years ago I was interviewing him when he won the British finals backstage, and I mean, what that kid's done in 3 years is nothing short of phenomenal, and he's still only in his 20s. I mean, I just want to see him get rewarded this time. I don't want him to see just a few spots higher, like, because he was 12th last year. I want to see him 5th, 6th. I want to see him in that top 6. He deserves to be.
Well, you know who's going to be and who's, you know, been fighting to get there for a while. And another guy that's improved vastly. Another one you know very well is Brandon Curry, who we all saw earlier this season show up so much bigger than ever before, and finally with condition that we've been looking for from him for a long time. And they were comparing him to Phil, to Rami, to these guys several times. He's definitely in the running. Where do you think he's going to end up roughly?
Well, he was in the first call out, and the judges were pulling him out over and over, and they were putting him right next to the top guys. I think I've got 5th in my head. Yeah. I think he's, for me, he looks slightly unbalanced though, but I mean his back and his shoulders and his chest, but he kind of looks like 2 different bodies put together. But having said that, I still think he's going to get top 6, and I think he's the one they're really going to move up a lot. I mean, he could get, like, say, 4th or something like that, but yeah, very impressed.
4th, I believe, based on what the call-outs were, you know, this is obviously just speculation because things change and they're going to get judged again tomorrow night. But Dexter Jackson, because he was not in that last group of 3 with Phil, Rami, and William Bonac that were compared, leads me to believe that he's probably not going to be in the top 3. I think, yeah, we don't know. I thought he looked really good. What did you think Dexter looked this year versus his usual self?
I think there's an argument for Dexter winning. I think he looks. He looks freaky. He looks phenomenal. He looks. I mean, I have him 2nd. I've got him 2nd. I'd have him ahead of Rami, ahead of Bonac. Yeah, Dexter. Dexter looks phenomenal.
Bonac has a lot of fans, as you can hear from over there. And Bonac definitely moved up. I mean, last year was a breakthrough for William Bonac. He went from someone who had never been in the top 5 to a very strong 5th place, where a lot of people thought he could have been as high as 2nd possibly. Condition was probably the very best in the show. Just amazing muscle density, thickness, and he got a lot of really good looks. Toward the very end, there was a final call out with Phil Heath and Rami. They moved him in the middle there for a portion of it. So Bonac is moving up very fast.
I'm a huge Bonac fan. I mean, I featured him in my MD column back in 2010 when he was an amateur, and I said, this guy, he was competing in Amsterdam and Holland, and I said, this guy is phenomenal. You know, he did the 212, he's moved up from 15th to 8th to 5th. Last year I had him 2nd. William, for me, I mean, like, I just interviewed Ronnie Coleman, and he said, I got a lot of love for Bonac, you know, William Bonac. He is, you know, he's, I want to see him beat Rami, but I don't think he will, and that makes me sad.
Yeah. And, you know, Rami was 4th place last year, which was the highest placing he'd ever got. and it looks very, very likely that he's going to be runner-up to Phil Heath this year. Yeah, I know you're not too happy about that, but you know, he's enormous. He definitely is bigger than anybody else on that stage. The physique doesn't really flow that well in certain poses, but you can't deny the guy's massive. He does have good shape and a small waist. Do you think he deserved to be that high?
I think with Ramy tonight, he has improved every year. I'll give that to him. And when he came out, because they always criticised him for his lack of separation in his legs, and tonight his legs were shredded. You know, he's made the improvements. He's brought his glutes and his hamstrings and his calves up, but I think he improved as the judging went on. And you know, when they moved him in the middle right at the end, and he was hitting like a rear double bicep and side tricep. I mean, those are good shots for him. I think you're right. I think he probably will play second. I would prefer to see him third, fourth, maybe fifth. Okay,
so out of deference to the champ, we talk about him last. Reigning 6-time Olympia champion Phil Heath. I'll let you kick it off. What did you think about Phil this year?
He looked good. He looked good. The biggest difference for me was when he was hitting his back shots. I could see more fullness, more thickness in his shoulders, the upper back. The arms look even bigger. But from the front, that stomach is very distracting. And I think they might penalise other competitors for it, but I don't think they'll penalise him enough to put him out of first place. Yeah. They might criticise him for it, but I don't think they're not going to give him first place. Right. So I think Phil's got it. But he had it in 2014. Yes. Yeah, and he was heavily criticised for it. And for 1 or 2 years, I know he brought it down, but it's back, and it did look bad.
Right. So, you know, it's very, very likely. It's highly likely. You could probably put some good money on that Phil's going to repeat, or I shouldn't say repeat, because it's going to be the 7th time. Tie Arnold's record. Is he at his best? No. Is he good enough to win? Yeah, he is. And you know, you can't really knock him too bad for it, because if you've been a fan of the sport for a very long time, you've seen this happen with so many other Mr. Olympia champions. They've come in off their best and still maintain their titles. So it's the likely scenario that's going to happen. Yeah. So we're going to find out in less than 24 hours. We'll know how it all goes down. But it's looking like Phil's going to hang on to it. Looks like some other guys like Bonac and Ramy are going to move up higher than they've ever been. Some other guys like Roden are probably dropping down lower than they've been in a few years. But that's the nature of the sport. It changes, bodies change and evolve. Guys get better, guys get worse, and you know that's what makes it worth watching every year, because it's not the same thing every time. So, wow, it's late. It is getting late. So I'm going to wrap it up here from Las Vegas. For MuscularDevelopment.com coverage of the 2017 Mr. Olympia weekend, brought to you by High Tech Pharmaceuticals. This is Ron Harris with Giles Tiger Thomas.